Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Type Zoe, and this is the first of the Umbral Twilight, or Umbral Equinox Lufenia's the Twilight version with Seven, Leon, and Kadaj. So this team is pretty fun, honestly. I got called out a little, well not called out, but Raw Life on the live stream, the Twitch stream we do every Mondays at 8:30. He called his team a squad of goons, so I decided to oblige him and make a little suicide homage in honor of the new movie that came out with the thumbnail here, and it is pretty goony, I will say. These are some underrated characters that many people do not bother with, so it does kind of fit the motif. But anyway, with regards to this fight, Leon was like the primary choice of building around because I kind of need excuses to use Leon because I was pulling for Jack, but I got like 6 Leon LDs, so it felt like the universe was telling me something a little bit, and it's been fun to kind of mess around with him. He's a pretty interesting character in that he's all or nothing, in that either he's going to completely trivialize a fight or he's going to be not very useful at all and you should probably bring somebody else. So that's kind of an interesting character design behind him. It does remind me of Emperor a little bit from the same game because of how much support Emperor requires in order to be a useful party member. So that's kind of interesting when they do the themes of the characters similar to the game series, like most of the FF2 characters have traps and stuff like that, and then Leon and Emperor, it's just cool stuff to note patterns like that. But anyway, these imps, they are much easier this time around, I have heard. I was not playing this game when they first came in the Sephiroth fight, but I have heard the war stories, and this time around the orb is to let them act instead of DPS check them, so that's much more manageable and done by a much wider range of characters. I brought Leon to protect me from any all attacks they might do, as well as Kadaj to kill their Brave Gains, because this is a rerun of the fight I did to use better calls and not mess up as much, but basically, Kadaj was originally put into the team to kill any Brave Gains they did, because Leon's one issue is high Brave Gains can still kind of get past him. And then I chose 7 as an aura character because I'm like, well, we're doing off-turn damage, so the turn count should be good, so how would I try 7 instead of some of the more powerful aura characters right now, like Queen or Sarah, and she worked out just fine, honestly. She was pretty helpful with her increased extra Brave damage during the Bondage Whip phases. They really helped Leon's trap, and her defense down stacked with Kadaj's fixation debuff, which I usually kept them together. Sometimes they break apart, or they switch targets, but when they were together, it usually meant that everybody on the team was capping that poor imp who had both 50% debuff defense down from Snakebite and 5 stacks of fixation from Kadaj, so really powerful debuffer combo. My first run of this, I brought debuff calls by accident, and I was having issues pushing off Leon's Imperil, which still happens in this fight because they buff themselves so much, but I was doing it myself, which was really annoying and not very good planning on my part. So I came back with some Queen and Aroha calls instead of the debuff ones I had, and that really fixed my turn count, and I shaved like 10 turns. I think I had 57 turns and I ended up with 47 in this recording, so much stronger overall and a better showcase of what this team's natural talents is rather than like getting stacked from Gabranth and Jack debuffs and stuff like that. We still did bring Kurasame because we had room for one more frame, but that's about it, and Kurasame is Kurasame. It's hard not to bring him. So the big gimmick of the imps is every 10 actions they roll switch, which means one is always a supporter and one is an attacker. So the supporter throws shields on one of them and sometimes self shields, and then the attacker is the one that's going to be doing the damage. So Kadaj's attack down debuffs are party wide. You get more of them on the fixation 5 stacks, but the Stigma still has the sap and the 1 stack of fixation on each target. So he's always going to be protecting us in addition to the Leon absorption, which keeps us nice and batteried, and that's very helpful for 7, and Kadaj really self-batteries himself so much that it doesn't matter for him, but for 7 and for Leon, their damage output is definitely increased by the absorbs. Some nice damage there on his skills, over 200k, which is not bad, especially with his Geophagy, oh my god, I don't know how to say that, his follow-up from the 5 stacks and his overhead. They do cleanse at 80% and 50%, so you'll see that I waited a little bit to put my Kurasame call on, and for the first cleanse, and I kind of paced Leon's LD usage around the cleanses, at least having one for each phase, and then I think I used two, one during my summon at the end of the fight, and then one to just maintain the trap. So one thing with Leon you want to keep in mind is that his Imperil is only on his EX and his LD, his skills don't apply it, so you do have to be a little bit careful, especially since Leon teams might like to break the enemies out of order because they are off-turn focused usually, so that's something to keep in mind. I'm gonna use our base calls here, just get some nice auras. I sometimes forget to do those, so it's always nice when I do remember to get those tiny little boosts and micro-optimizations. Coming up on that 50% cleanse phase, you can see Seven taking not a damn about those command rush attacks with the Leon absorption. And Kadaj is doing 180k AAs, which reminds me of Kurosame. Only Kurosame has as good AAs as Kadaj does. I love those characters. We get those instant turn, nothing to do about him, free rate damage. Just one of my favorite things, just as a personal pet peeve. An annoying thing here is Leon's Dark Bind skill has a sap debuff, a generic one on it, which I don't really need. That can sometimes end up pushing off his Imperil, but it's a better damaging skill when his Imperil is off already, so it's kind of like a catch-22 with pushing the Imperil off but wanting to maintain damage, but we got around it anyway, and our turn count was more than fine for this 70-turn fight. So there's the first cleanse, or the second cleanse on letter A, and we're about to push it into B with, I think we use a Diving Strike on A to both set up our Snake Bites 3 stacks again, as well as push B into its cleanse. Yep, that's exactly what we do, still doing good damage with 7, and we've got that Queen LD call up, which gives us some extra overflow and HP damage dealt. It's a pretty nice call if you don't need any debuffs, or you're already running a team with debuffs. And it had that emergency burst heal, which I very quickly found out with this team is not needed because I think the most HP damage we ever took was like 400 each on each enemy, on each player unit, so absolutely nothing. And we're going to come in with the Kurosame LD call here, get ourselves an enchant, and Kadaj is going to do a super nasty EX here. Almost 500k total damage, very nice. On as well, going to set up his Rohawk call now that we've got all our good stuff going, and this is going to be our heavy damage part of the fight with all of our buffs and all of our debuffs on. I haven't had a chance to screw up Leon's Imperil yet, it's all good stuff. Going to see his call here do a ton of damage. 150k in one target, that's super good. The Rohawk call, the Kurosame call, all of it's just really picking up together to increase his damage output, and it's really nice to press 7's Bondage Whip when she's already batteried, because it feels like less of a waste of an attack. It's never a waste of an attack, because the 20% increased Brave damage you do while in the Bondage Whip phase already more than makes up for the lack of damage on the attack itself, but if you can make that attack a batteried attack, it makes all the difference. I think we're going to summon pretty soon here. I gave him one turn just for orb management, and I think I left Kadaj's overhead off for one turn, which is oops, but not a big deal at the end of the world. And I think I wanted to make use of the Aroha and the enchant and stuff that we had right now, so I think... Okay, so I think 7's turn or Leon's next turn we go into summon. I got a really nice damage on that LD. I didn't feel worried about his trap falling off with the amount of health they had left and my summon coming still, so 7's going to let that EX fly to break the shield, and I believe next turn we should go into summon. Gosh, that trap is so nice when you really get it potencied up. Another similarity to Emperor, his trap needs super help in order to do good damage. But we're going to get some fat launches here. I saved that launch with the Dark Bind because Leon's not the best choice for initiating. And this way I can get Kadaj to be the launcher because he has a triple dump on his Mayhem, and Leon and 7 already had some batteries. So that's some huge damage right there. Gosh, almost 500k, crazy. And I burned 7's last LD here. I forgot that one had a shield, so what I should have done there is probably let myself chip it with an AoE skill and then launch it once I had broken that shield, but not a big deal at the end. We're still doing great damage, and these guys are pretty toast, to be honest. I really enjoyed these Equinox, Umbral, and the Aurora events. I thought there was a good mix of tough Lufenias, pretty easy Lufenias, and then some in-between ones. I think this is on the easier side, but I did bring a mitigation option that let me ignore most of the mechanics, as well as a good Dispeller in Kadaj, so I could have engaged with this more, but there's a lot of good ways to shut this fight down. Aerith is a great way to prevent them from buffing themselves, which can get rid of those annoying shields, as well as her defense down. Warrior of Light will super protect you, and I think Lion, if you're, if for some reason you're struggling with this fight, if Lion, actually, Lion, screw that, Lion's not coming out fast enough. She's an X-Death cycle, not unicycle. I am being silly. But yeah, there's not too much to say left. We're finishing up this fight, so it's good to be doing commentary again. I kind of dropped the ball a little bit for that, as well as uploading in general, just because I've had some real-life struggles lately, but that's okay. I was super happy to be back on the Twitch game last Monday night, and just enjoying myself, talking DFFOO again with my best friends. Even with the resist, they're still doing some good damage on the Dark Range just because of how much battery Leon does. 60k, 50k, can't complain, it's free damage. Yep, that's gonna be about it. Gonna get a final application of his Imperil here on our EX. And debuff was pretty close to falling off, but I knew when I timed it and I used that last LD a little bit early that there was no way they were gonna absolutely run out of the Dark Drain trap. And use one more AA here to kind of even up their health as I go into this final Kadaj EX. Not doing quite so much damage without our enchant calls and our Aroha call and our Kurasame call, so it's like, you can really see the difference in that turn from like Kadaj when he was fully juiced up with that almost 500k to it dropped to about 240k damage, so it's crazy what some good call management can do. And that's going to be the fight in 47 turns, which is a nice improvement from my first run, as you're going to see here. New high score, new perfect, and that's great. So I'm going to be recording the rest of these fights tonight as well, so you can look out for them. And thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and have a great day. Bye, Nara!